It looks disgusting.
How much do you think they actually care about making this 100% real?
None, they don't care at all. We've seen some reaction videos from other professionals in the field. We thought it'd be really cool to do one of our own. So we're just a bunch of VFX artists that are getting together to talk about visual effects and the best shots, the hardest shots that maybe you didn't know were so hard, the shots that didn't look so good after all.
We'll give you our perspective and maybe you'll learn something.
Hopefully. I figured I just had to say something, so I didn't say anything.
Starting off with Game of Thrones.
The giant effects in Game of Thrones are by far some of the best visual effects ever done. So here is a giant walking through water. The water splashes are perfect. There is so much complexity in the movement and motion that you basically have to simulate millions of particles. And somehow he's interacting with the water, the splashes are perfect, and the camera's halfway in the water, and I have no idea how they did this shot. Look at that!
Because they figure out like the exact perspective the camera needs to be. They basically scale the entire scene when they film him separately on a green screen. Combined with the fact that he's already a very large dude.
There's two ways you deal with compositing when you have people. One, they're either filmed on a green screen or a blue screen, and you tell the computer that the green is transparent or the blue is transparent. And the computer does its best to kind of figure that out. The other way you do it is you hire a big team of people to sit there and cut everything out frame by frame by drawing a mask on it. We're not even mentioning the fact that there's skeletons climbing up him, full CG characters. That's just a side thought.
They probably had to animate the skeletons on top of his like CG double.
Yeah.
Which is over top of his actual body.
Dude, I thought this scene was glorious. I loved it.
I mean, it looks very painterly, but it doesn't look real.
I would agree with that.
Because there's nothing like, it's tough to make a dragon look real because there's no such thing.
What about that?
See, that's tough too.
So it's the contact shadows there, and that's always been a struggle. Is like
it's a fine job.
the floating hand effect. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you got to try to get the shadow just right.
It's beyond the shadow too. It's like the motion of the hand. Like, if the motion's not really touching something and it can't rest on something, it looks funky. But this is pretty good.
Contact shadows are being cast from light still, and in this case, there's still a dome of sky above him, which is what's causing the light. And then the dragon's blocking half of it. So the contact shadows should only be really getting a directional soft light from the side and the top. It shouldn't be just an even blur all around his fingers. It's like you'll see the shadow on the top and the bottom of his fingers, and the shadow should really only be on the bottom of his fingers.
We're literally talking about the compositing, one tiny stage of an entire workflow and pipeline. It's actually like pretty great.
You know what they're missing right here? They're missing the wind from the dragon's wings as it flaps away in the bushes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about realistic with that, one swipe of the wings, both of those actors would be flying away. That's how much thrust.
I don't know about flying.
Absolutely.
I don't know about
This is the problem, is like, you're simulating, not only are you simulating the wind on the dragon's skin, but also how it folds and how it stretches and how it wrinkles and how the light passes through it, and then how it influences the grass and how it's influencing the dust and how it's influencing the actors' costumes. And it's too much. It's just too much. It's impossible. Unless everything is CG, it's too much. Oh my
Dude,
goodness.
Dragonheart.
Is this more Game of Thrones?
Dragonheart!
This is a classic movie.
This movie
Is
is
it old?
23 years old.
Oh, the original.
I was confused at the time between Dragonheart and Braveheart. Like, were they the same thing? It looks pretty good. I mean, the animation's a little clunky. There's a lot of mass. And once again, it comes down to physics. If you can't just physically simulate parts of the dragon, and like it's all by hand, it's hard to make it look real. Okay, so this shot perfectly demonstrates one of the challenges of early visual effects. In reality, shadows are much more dynamic than that, and they actually aren't just black, they're colors, because shadows are an absence of light. So I can block this soft light here covering Ren's face, but notice there's still blue light from that light and blue light from the daylights. The parts that are close to the ground, like right there when his tail is close to the ground, that should be even darker than just that flat shadow.
What you're describing is called ambient occlusion.
Ambient occlusion.
Which is basically just darkness that's calculated by how close two surfaces are to each other.
He looks dry, bone crusty, dry.
Clint's pointing out that there's no like highlights, the shine basically of the light being reflected on them. It's really reflecting the sky, the ground, the world around them. It's just the darker objects you don't really see, but it still creates a subliminal effect. On surfaces, there's something called the index of refraction. And basically the more a surface gets parallel to camera, the more reflective it gets. So if I hold this picture towards you, you can see it. You can see really well. Maybe there's a little bit of reflection, but not that bad. And as I turn it more and more and more, so it's parallel, it becomes more and more reflective until it's almost a full mirror. So on the edges of the dragon there, the highlights, the reflections that shine should be stronger than on the parts that are directly facing camera. But you're not seeing any of that. The edges of his scales that are shiny should be a little extra shiny as they turn away from camera and become parallel with the light.
The shot of him going down the stairs is the most impressive shot in the whole movie, in my opinion.
Wow. Is that
Okay,
another
how do you think they did that? That other actor there. Do you think they just filmed a second take of Logan in different makeup and maybe just like made him look a little younger?
I would guess
I don't know.
it's another guy, and they're doing a head replacement, a face replacement.
I'd say it's like some, what are those guys? Dinkelmeyer twins from,
Winklevoss twins?
yeah, I'd say it's something like that. where-
So they filmed one guy and then a double, and CG swapped his face over.
That's probably the way I would do it.
Younger Hugh Jackman is 100% digital.
The whole thing.
No, sorry, his from the neck up. From the neck up. The actual actor is Hugh Jackman's stunt double.
The wrinkles in his neck.
Yeah, this is like literally the best Uncanny Valley shots. Like they managed to digitally recreate a human face so realistically that no one could tell it was digital.
The whole head is CG.
The whole 100% head. Basically, they cut out his head around his shirt line.
That's
So the whole neck, all the head, like that right there is 100% CG, that face that you're looking at.
that's insane.
It's,
Young Samuel Jackson here still looks a little weird.
no, that looks pretty dang real to me, but that's
It
not a
looks
full
good.
CG replacement. That's just, I don't know exactly how they did that.
That's young Samuel L. Jackson.
That's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, but young
from like
Samuel L. Jackson.
30 years ago.
What is this, 30 years ago?
This is brand new.
This movie came out this year.
What movie is it?
As far as how they did that, I don't know if they just tracked in like some digital makeup or if it was an actual full-on complete head replacement.
It definitely looks better than young Princess Leia. One of the hardest things to get right in digital heads, outside of the eyes, of course, which is where the soul lives, is the mouth.
Yes.
Because you basically have a ring of muscle suspended by muscle that's then interacting against your teeth. The way it deforms and interacts on your whole face is really challenging, and you basically need to simulate the skeleton and the muscle structure and the skin surface and how that wrinkles to get a good looking mouth. All up until this point, it's either hand animated, somebody trying to make it look as real as possible, never does. They got close to Smeagol, or it's straight up frame by frame volumetric capture of somebody just doing it, so you don't have to worry about any sort of animation simulation. So I'm just watching you talk and smile and seeing your lips stretch across your teeth, and how it tucks in the edge. And of course, you have hairs happening.
Neck is moving.
Yeah, the hairs, the neck.
So many details.
Wrinkles come out when you move your face.
Your ears are moving.
Your pores stretch.
There's so many factors involved. It's nearly impossible to get it perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is the holy grail of effects making, is creating a believable human.
Well,
Like-
what would need to be done to make it look more real?
Because a lot of being a visual effects artist, half of it is simulating reality, and the other half of it is simulating what happens to reality when it passes through the guts of the camera. Like, how does the sensor blow out? Does it blow out to pure white? Does it blow out to color? When does that happen? That blue glow from the lightning, the camera would never capture it like that. It's daytime, meaning the camera is stopped down. Even though the camera's exposed way down to the point where the clouds aren't even white, there's still glow coming through that electricity, which you wouldn't get. That's not how the camera captures light.
See, that looks real. Those
Yeah,
hands.
they look good. This doesn't look real at all.
It's gonna look weird because there's no reference. There's no real world reference.
I don't know. As far as like the actual rendering of it, I don't really have any complaints. It's all about the character design, and I think that's where most people are kind of complaining about. Is like just the character design seems flawed. Sonic has very iconically large eyes, and in this movie, he's got tiny little like regular eyes. I think-
Sonic actually has one big eye.
Yeah, I mean it's like
two
a
eyes and-
visor of an eyeball. They gave him human teeth. He has like actual proportioned legs. Like they tried to make him too much like something we're familiar with and strayed a little too far away from like the actual essence of the character.
Like there's numerous issues with the shot. That green is, you can see a little green in the grass in the top left corner there. The green of his eyes is way more saturated than the most saturated green that's in the scene. The camera wouldn't be able to capture that much saturation. He shouldn't be as saturated.
How much do you think they actually care about making this 100%
None.
real?
None, they don't care at all.
I accept that.
Yeah, the Davy Jones effects were so well done. Granted,
It looks disgusting.
In a good way or bad way?
are you reacting to the quality of effects, or
No, like to the freaking tentacles, dude.
you're actually having an emotional reaction to what you're seeing as opposed to a critical reaction to the effects?
Oh my god, look at the light.
Yeah, all those specular highlights.
They're challenging you right there. They're putting
Yeah.
a real head and a CG head right next to each other. It is a bold shot, perfectly matching the light to the other guy. The artist's understanding of the physics of light are so perfect.
Wow.
Smoke being blown out of his tentacle.
He blows it out with his cheek nostril. I didn't even realize that. Oh my god.
Subsurface scattering is a big deal for visual effects. Basically, it simulates light hitting the surface of something, not immediately bouncing, but going in a little bit, scattering, and then coming out. It's what you get when you can like see through the edge of people's ears or shining a light through your hand.
Now his eyes are real.
Yeah.
They're faking it a little bit by actually using the real eyes.
The lens effects too are flawless. Not only is the animation and the lighting and materials flawless, their lens simulation is flawless. The way he's going out of focus at the edges, the way the environment behind him is being transmitted through the focus at the edges, it's all perfect.
Dude, when he moves his beard, each one of the tentacles have its own muscle, so it doesn't whip like hair. It has like each tentacle is a piece of muscle on its own. It's like, wow.
One of the challenges with CG rendering are details that are the size of a pixel, such as, for example, a piece of light reflection on a bumpy surface like a skin. And the challenge with that, it's not consistent for each frame, so sometimes you get flicker or aliasing. One frame you'll have that reflection, another frame it's gone, next frame it's back, next frame it's gone, and it flickers on and off. You see that in video games all the time. So they have micro detail reflections on a skin, and they are not flickering, and that is a huge achievement.
Dude, I love his little freaking back sack. His neck sack.
The crazy thing is, all these weird creatures on deck are all people in motion capture suits. So they filmed the entire scene with all the actors, and then comped in these characters over them. It's just insane.
I know, it's a lot of work. That's a lot.
Imagine the scenes where it's actually raining on set.
Oh, so hard.
And that was it. You guys have watched 3 different visual effects artists critique and review and just overall look at a bunch of effects from pop culture movies and TV shows.
Consider
and
subscribing to the Corridor Crew channel.
maybe hit that bell.
Do it. No, hit the
Ring
bell.
a ding
Definitely.
ding.
definitely.
Don't consider it. Don't even think about it. Just
Hit
do
the
it.
bell.
Just do it. Just do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I?
Do it. Thank you.
Why would you throw that up on the screen right now, of all times?